In this video I will show you how to replace the starter motor on 2009 to 2020 Dodge Journey Sport utility vehicles equipped with 6-cylinder engine. Step number 1. Park the vehicle on a flat surface, activate the emergency brake and place blocks in front of and behind the rear wheels for safety. Lift the front of the vehicle using a hydraulic floor jack and place jack stands under the chassis for safety. 2. Open the engine compartment and on the driver's side, remove the nut that holds the negative terminal to the chassis using a ratchet and a 15mm socket. Once the nut is removed, remove the cable by pulling it out with your hand and making sure it does not make contact with the chassis of the vehicle. 3. Next, remove the second nut that holds the negative terminal in the same way with a ratchet and a 15mm socket. Once the nut is removed, remove the cable by pulling it out with your hand and making sure it does not make contact with the body of the vehicle. 4. Next, locate and remove the bolt holding the side engine support using a ratchet and a 15mm socket. 5. Remove the 2 bolts holding the metal support bar at one end using a ratchet or impact tool and an 18mm socket. 6. Next, remove the 4 remaining bolts from the bar at the other end using an impact tool or ratchet and a 16mm socket. Hold the bar with one hand before removing all the bolts to prevent it from accidentally falling on you. 7. Remove the bracket shown on the screen by removing the 3 bolts holding it in place using a ratchet and a 16mm socket. 8. Next, unlock the starter solenoid signal wire connector by pulling back the red lock on the connector using a flathead screwdriver as shown in the image. 9. Press down on the connector lock and pull it back simultaneously to disconnect it completely as shown in the image. 10. Next, remove the nut holding the positive cable to the starter solenoid using a ratchet and a 13mm socket. 11. Loosen for the moment the lower bolt holding the starter motor and remove the upper bolt using a ratchet and a 15mm socket. Note, the upper bolt holds the negative cable in some of these models. Keep this in mind when installing the new starter motor. 12. Next, remove the remaining bolts while holding the starter with the other hand to prevent it from accidentally falling on you. Once all the bolts have been removed, proceed to remove the starter motor in its entirety by simply pulling it out and down with your hands. 13. Thoroughly clean the surface where the starter motor sits using a wire brush as well as the metal spacer and transfer it to the new starter motor. 14. Install the new starter motor in its original position, install the lower bolt and tighten it with your hand. 15. Next, clean the negative cable terminal using a wire brush and install the upper bolt. Install the last bolt holding the starter and proceed to tighten them according to the specifications described in the owner's manual. 16. Install the positive cable on the new starter solenoid making sure that the nut holding it is tightened properly and reconnect the starter solenoid signal wire making sure that it is seated all the way and the red locking tab is in the locked position. 17. Install the metal bracket back in its original position and tighten the bolts according to the specifications described in the owner's manual. 18. Install the metal support bar in its original position ensuring that the rubber bushings are in good condition, replace them if necessary, and tighten the bolts holding it according to the specifications described in the owner's manual. 19. Install the engine mount in its original position and tighten it to the specifications listed in the owner's manual. 20. Clean the ground cable terminals perfectly using a wire brush and install them back in their original position in the correct order and tighten the nuts firmly. Before lowering the vehicle to the ground, proceed to start the engine to make sure it works properly. 21. If the starter works properly, turn the engine off and lower the vehicle to the ground. That's how simple it is to replace the starter motor on Dodge Journey Sport utility vehicles equipped with 6-cylinder engine.